Nah, bro, you fought her now. Back in the day, though? Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Wetterfloor765, Midnight Gemlord, Sean, and Argoon. And a very big thank you to our $25 patron, Alex Ice Rose. Now, we have this breakdown / discussion on how the original demon was an original beast way back in his prime. Please do me a favor and leave your own listing the original demon in his prime in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You support result as one, count them one, download, like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? Punter here, and I'll be real with you. The original demon, like, out of his prime, is something else, right? Like, the original demon itself is a really cool concept, and, like, the reason he is the original demon, all that, really cool backstory, really cool, all that, you know, really cool. But, like, from a scaling front, if we were to just measure his power and stack it up against a lot of the verse, especially with 4 knights now on the table, the original demon is now probably not even a top 15 character in the verse. It's crazy to think about, but he really just isn't. Like, let me just go off the dome and name 15 characters that definitively scale above the original demon we get in the modern narrative. Like, by the time he shows up, refuses, gets all the crisis amps he wants, all that, by the time of the main narrative, the original demon that we see is weaker than Mel, weaker than Zell, weaker than King, weaker than Escanor, weaker than, yeah, you could actually argue weaker than Merlin, weaker than Bon, weaker than, obviously, Lancelot, weaker than the Demon King, weaker than the Supreme Deity, weaker than Chaos, weaker than Kath, that's 11, weaker than Chaos King Arthur, that's 12, let's see, who else, we got some more in there that I'm just struggling right now, weaker than Elizabeth, weaker than Mael, weaker than Ludoshel, yeah, he's not even a top 15 character. The fusion of the two masters of the two demon princes is not even a top 15 character by the time of modern series, by the time of now. Maybe you think I'm cheating by including Lancelot, maybe, but I do think there should be another character that's above him too, that still kicks him out of the top 15, but can't think of it off the top of my head. I'm just going literally straight off the domer. There are 15 characters above the original demon, and some of them are above the original demon and, like, fodder states. Like, Mael bopped the original demon in the afternoon after the original demon got crisis amps. Like, at their strongest that we ever saw in the modern era, one-tapped. And the original demon had full counter. So it's not like we can make an excuse for them and say, like, oh, well, they just couldn't do anything. No, they literally got blitzed and one-tapped by afternoon Mael. That's pretty booty meat. They were literally about to perish. If Zeldris did not show up and block it for them, they were going to perish. They were going to flat out perish from Full Wings King from a distant Sunflower. Like, bro was nowhere near the battlefield and he was still about to one-shot the original demon. Astral Body Ludoshel, after expending himself a whole bunch while in Margaret Body, and healing Hendrickson, and doing all that, literally on the verge of just ceasing existence, was still able to combat the original demon. And even once it got its crisis amps up, it was still doing pretty darn well. Ludoshel was still boxing with the original demon on pretty even ground with just his soul. Like, the original demon, despite all the buildup, despite all the hype, behind Chandler and Cusack alone, Chandler and Cusack individually, well, together, that's when Zeldris makes a statement, but even then, the two individual parts of the original demon are hyped up to replace all the 10 commandments. Zeldris, in his mind, by the time he made that statement, literally lost all 9 of his commandments. It was literally just him. He was the only demon that was left repping the 10 commandments that type beat. But guess what? The fusion of those two characters isn't even top 15. Maybe, like, this may be bold. Like, if you include variations of characters, it gets even worse for him. He's not even top 20. He may not even be top 25 if you start including variations of characters. There are like 5 different Mels that scale above him. Multiple different Elizabeths that scale above him. Multiple variations of Mael that scale above him. Multiple variations of Ludoshel. Multiple variations of Bon. Like, so many characters and so many different forms scale above the original demon. Once again, the fusion of the two masters of Meliodas and Zeldris is booty meat in terms of scaling. You could take Prime Mel, slaps. Prime Elizabeth, slaps. Prime Mael, slaps. True Body Ludishel, slaps. So many characters just mollywop this guy. And it's kind of, the reason I find it so weird is because of all the buildup, because of all the hype behind Chandler and Cusack alone, and obviously the hype behind their fusion. No one really knew what was popping off. Like, we had gotten hinted at the original demon way back in his earlier backstory. Or not even his earlier backstory, we got hinted at it when Meliodas even set up the Collecting the Commandments quest. He was like, there was once a servant to the Demon King that was around, but he betrayed, and then his power got taken away. That the power that was lent at least got taken away and split into the 10 Commandments. That is what was hyped up. And then the original demon came, had a really cool fusion scene, and then proceeds to be mollywopped. And to be fair, the original demon is just a victim of storyline placement. Like, legitimately, storyline placement did the original demon so dirty. Because he was just, like, right there at the cusp. Make the original demon appear 30 chapters earlier, and I think he may solo the verse. Like, unironically, because that was pre-Full Wings King. We didn't know how strong Purgatory Bond was. In terms of, like, the people who were in the verse at the time. Not, like, the Demon King in Purgatory or the Supreme Deity that was sealed away. And before any Ludishel feats against the original demon, they were pretty hyped up. Like, they were a definitive top tier, but they just got done dirty by where they were placed narratively. Because Nakaba couldn't have King after he freshly awakened struggling with the original demon. That'd be wrong. We couldn't have Ludishel, you know, this top tier leader of the Archangels guy, struggling against the original demon. That'd be wrong. We couldn't have any character really struggle against the original demon except for, like, a fatigued, relying on excess external stored energy Escanor. That's the only character the original demon definitively beats. And Escanor, who's guarding Merlin after literally getting bullied all day and proceeding to not even be able to use his proper magic, just the dregs of excess energy he released before. That's the only character the modern original demon beats. Bro is just booty meat. Booty meat to the ultimate degree. It's actually kind of disgusting how weak he is, especially by end of series. Like, even, ironically enough, even pre-end of series, like, even before we get, like, we get Final Shine Escanor, the one ultimate Escanor, DK Mel, DK Zell, all these different characters, and then random scaling to them, still kind of booty meat in terms of where he scales. Like, top tiers from 3,000 years ago are out here, like, literally one-tapping the original demon. Like straight up, flat out one-tapping him. A demon, this is gonna sound crazy, a demon mark Prime Mel probably one-taps the original demon. Just based on scaling relative to, if not flat out, just above, because he repelled him, Mael. One-taps. Elizabeth, in her prime, scales directly to that Prime Mel. In assault mode, no less. Not to talk of demon mark. One-taps him. Like, the original demon, just a horrible character scaling wise. Amazingly hacked out, don't get me wrong, having all the abilities of Chandler and Cusack, plus demon abilities, plus Crisis, plus the unique abilities he has, like Darkness Omega. Like, he has so many good skills that I'd say in an equal stats scenario, I'd put him above a lot of other characters. There's some that just hard counter him, like DK obviously hard counters him. We don't see the original demon have any healing tech, or Chandler and Cusack, they don't have any healing tech. So obviously they hard lose to the original demon. Not the original demon. They hard lose to the Demon King. I still think Zeldris bullies them, even equal stats, because they can't use their magic, and Zeldris has Omnis Nebula, which should just GG them. So there is definitely still bad matchups for the original demon, even equal stats inverse. But if I'm talking about, like, top 10, top 5 characters I want to take cross-verse, he's up there just because of how many different abilities he has. Like, the only, like, really nice ability he doesn't have access to is Existence Erasure. That's the only thing he doesn't have. But you don't need that. He has stupid, dumb hacks already. Resonance, Meteor Works, Absolute Order, Perfect Cube, Absolute Cancel. Like, what's in his kit is diabolical. It is disgusting. Like, one of the... I'm thinking, is it, like, literally the best kit in the verse? Like, outside of Merlin, one of, if not flat out, the best kit in the verse in terms of just sheer diversity of hacks. but it's just the power that lets him down. He was such a poorly placed character narratively that he just gets nothing scaling wise that makes him anywhere near impressive, even after his amps. So it's crazy to say that the Prime original demon mollywops a whole bunch of the characters that mollywop the modern one. Because, you know what he had? He had half of the Demon King's power. Like, legitimately, that, if one thing goes to show you how important matchups are in Seven Deadly Sins, it's the original demon in his prime versus the Demon King. Because the Demon King somehow won that fight. Even though we can see the original demon is pretty strong on his own. Like, once again, its halves are stronger than all the commandments put together. But even still, having half of the Demon King's power knocks him up a whole bunch of tiers. Sure, there's definitely like a healthy amount of characters he still falls beneath. He still falls beneath Final Shine Escanor. Like, it's just that Final Shine Escanor scales directly to Prime Demon King. Prime Demon King literally is full power Demon King, so obviously the original demon only having half doesn't bode too well for it. Meliodas, ironically enough, things like post-Purg Meliodas should actually... Nah, they should bully too. They should definitely bully too, just because of like how the matchup would go based on how base post-Purg Mel scales to Demon King Zell, and how Demon King Zell should scale to the Demon King at 50% power from 3,000 years ago, or however long ago the original demon was made. So unfortunately, that isn't a good matchup for him, but Prime Mel now gets negged. Prime Elizabeth now gets negged. Ludishel now gets negged. Mael now gets negged. End of series Diane now gets negged. Merlin is kind of weird. It depends on how much you want to like really slop off her for fighting Kath and landing little scratches on the Demon King. Like, that's really kind of up in the air. If you think it is impressive and you think that her being able to land scratches on the full power Prime Demon King is more impressive than anything a Prime original demon have access to, Merlin should still neg. But still, like, we're now going from 3,000 year past top tiers and like a late series high tiers like Mael and Ludishel to realistically requiring some of the end of series tier characters to really come in and put in work against the Prime original demon. Like, you need post Purgatory Bond, you need Final Shine Escanor, you need Full Wings King. Like, you need these beasts that are scaling to the full power Demon King to really take down the original demon, because the original demon with half of the Demon King's power shoots him up so much. And now all those hacks and the variability in those hacks all matter now, because there's now power behind them. Before, there just wasn't much. Like, it's weird to say. It goes to show you how crazy Seven Deadly Sins power creep is, right? Because the level of power that the original demon has, even in the modern narrative without half of the Demon King's power, is still bonkers. Like, it legit, all of, I think, seasons 1 through 3, the original demon runs rampant. Like, it legitimately just starts bullying everybody there, except for, like, characters who have retroactive scaling, like the primes of a lot of characters, like characters who may, like, slightly coexist at the same time, like your post-Purgatory Bond or in Purgatory Bond. There's some weird outliers. But specifically, power creep in Seven Deadly Sins is so crazy that I can say someone like the original demon in the modern day, you know, like a full 10 Commandments tier threat. Like, not alone, not like on the level of the 10 Commandments, but no, like the 10 Commandments collective, and 9 of them slapped together, and that's literally the original demon. But even still, now, by the times of current 4 Knights, it's fodder. Like, it's crazy how fodder the original demon is. Not even by the time of 4 Knights, by the end of this series. By EOS 7 Deadly Sins, the original demon is a joke. To the point where I'm actually thinking of some battles for him right now. But regardless of that, the crazy thing is, in his prime, he was arguably like, he could have beaten the Supreme Deity from Cursed by Light, which is crazy to think about. But the Supreme Deity in Cursed by Light was only at half power. Would have absolutely annihilated that thing, like, completely, because he has the answer. You need darkness to defeat the Supreme Deity, and it's immune to physical attacks. Bada bing, bada boom. The original demon in its prime would have darkness. Would absolutely annihilate the Supreme Deity. Mael, the character who one-tapped the original demon, like, once again, blitz and one-shot, would literally cower in fear at the prime original demon. Mael doesn't think he's capable of fighting. He like, at the time, it's so crazy. At the time that Mael makes the statement to Escanor, that he couldn't actually fight the Demon King, it wasn't even the Prime Demon King. It was first form DK Zell. That is the Demon King that Mael thinks he can't fight. And that means that the original demon, who should be relative to that DK Zell somewhat, it depends on if you think a base no amps Zeldris is like relative to the original demon. I'd say the original demon should technically be stronger. Like Prime OD should also be stronger than DK Zell. That may sound bonkers, but should be stronger than DK Zell. So it would win that fight, or at least it should. But the thing is, right? No, I think it would. Because the main reason I assume the Demon King lost, or no, the Demon King won the fight that it had with the Prime Original Demon, is because it had magic negation. And the original demon is a very hacked out character, so the Demon King could have literally, like, ignored half its moveset and just beat it down to death, and, like, use special spells and its own hacks, which would go pretty much uninterrupted against the original demon. So the original demon just, once again, had a bad matchup in its prime. But it could have beat the Supreme Deity, could beat Mael. It would absolutely one-tap Ludishel. Like, no doubt about it. Like, Mael's superior to Ludishel. Ludishel, when he was fighting the Mon original demon, was, it was kind of piecing him up, going crazy, activating Crisis and all that, because the original demon was in Crisis fighting Astral Body Ludishel. True Body Ludishel smacked, absolutely just bullied and annihilated. Like, you could actually, this is gonna sound weird, you could plug and play the original demon in the Prime Demon King fight, and he'd be more useful than Diane. More useful, I mean, not more useful than Gother. Gother was too necessary at the end with Kill Switch, but like in terms on a sheer power front, Prime Original Demon would be better there. You can make a solid argument. I mean, it's a 50-50. Once again, if you, how much you value the burn marks she left on the Prime Demon King. You really want to put the original demon in Merlin's place, and I think he may end up being more useful, at least in his prime. He would have the power, he would have the speed, he would have the stats to be relevant. Prime original demon, I don't think he has anything on Full Wings King. I think Full Wings King is just in like that higher echelon tier, being able to fight and actually like consistently damage and survive hits from the Prime Demon King. So Full Wings King is beyond, but the Prime Original Demon's pretty darn beastly. Like, matchup-wise, they slide up a whole lot more. Like, they go from not even, if you include form variations, which I know some people don't like to do when you're ranking. People just want to take the strongest form. So, if you just do strongest forms of characters, the original demon, not even a top 15 in terms of its modern scaling. Just isn't. You can't really argue it, unless you can pull out some arguments that I don't know about. You can't really argue the original demon being a top 15 character by EOS and especially by Fortnights, because we have extra characters who are dummy strong. But then, if you were to add, like, character variations, it gets even more delirious, because you have, like, what, 5 different Demon Kings? All of which should be either relative to, well, no, they would all slap. Like all the Demon Kings would slap a modern original demon. The Supreme Deity would slap a modern original demon. Elizabeth and like 3 of her forms would slap the Prime. Well, no. End of series, Four Knights, and Prime Goddess Elizabeth all would slap the original demon. Like 5, no, not even 5, like 6 variations of Mel all slap the Prime Original Demon. Or no, not the Prime Original Demon. I take that back. The modern original demon from Assault Mode, from Demon Mark 3,000 years past, Prime Assault Mode. Like there's so many different variations of Mel that slap. Not getting started on like King Meliodas and his variations all slap. But you do that and all the 15 other different characters with their 9 different forms, and obviously the time skip that you get in Four Knights. So characters, like, if we include variations, push the modern original demon. Like, this is definitely highballing it. I may be gassing it just a little bit. I may be highballing it to a ridiculous degree. But maybe the original demon isn't even like a top 35 character if you include variations. Because there are so many variations of characters that just directly scale above. Because the Demon King, I keep saying the Demon King. The original demon in modern time just has booty water scaling. Like, to nothing. Nothing. Absolute butt water. It's crazy how poor his scaling is relative to where he should be based on his hype and based on his lore. But when you put the prime in there, leaps straight, even with variation. Well, variations still get a little bit messy, because you still have like 5 different Mels that casually would come in and bully the prime original demon. But if we go back to like the single list, the original demon goes from literally like a top 20, maybe top 25 character, if I can like think of 5 more off the dome that could really do some damage to the original demon, to arguably like a top 10. Like what? If we give him half the power, he GG's the 50% Supreme Deity, which is the only one we have like genuine feats for. We've never actually, unlike the Demon King where we actually got an image, well, technically, we do have one image of a full power Supreme Deity, and it's in the flashback explaining Chaos. So the Supreme Deity we see fight gets negged. So that's a top spot gone. The prime characters, like Prime Mel, Prime Elizabeth, slapped. They get negged. We saw how they interacted with 50% of the Demon King's power. In the past, they get negged. Mael gets negged. Like, these characters who are, like, sitting comfortably in the top 15, put the Prime Original Demon up there, suddenly get displaced. Like, above Zell, above Mael, above Ludishel, above the Prime variations of Meliodas and Elizabeth. Like, once again, they're like, so close to that EOS tier. There's still a healthy amount of characters that scale above them. Like I said, Bond, Final Shine Escanor, King, Meliodas, obviously the Demon King himself. Then, of course, you have characters like Lance from the modern narrative, Chaos, Kath, Chaos King Arthur. So there's still a bunch that may just genuinely gatekeep out the, like, just keep the Prime Original Demon out the top 10. Just by pure, raw, end-of-series nutty scaling. But still, a leap from not to the top 15 to arguably pretty solidly being in the top 10 is crazy. And you can, with its hacks, you can make some pretty solid arguments that it could beat some people that are even stronger than it. Like, I could see an argument, especially with Crisis Amps, if it still has Crisis in its prime, which is something that is unknown. We don't know if Crisis is an ability that it had 3. I imagine it probably did, because it knew what Crisis was. It wasn't shocked when it did it. So unless they, like, fuse sometime in between, it makes sense that they would have knowledge of Crisis from 3,000 years past. So, arguably, if you limit Mel post-purge just to base, maybe the original demon could take a dub. Against, not post-purgatory Bond. maybe just post-purgatory Bond, no Korchu's. But, like, Korchu's post-purgatory Bond does still body back, because, you know, scaling to the Prime Demon King. Same thing with Following His King. They're rough. They're rough. There are matchups that the Prime Original Demon just doesn't win because how scaling is just like nestled in a really weird spot. But still, the leaps, the jumps, the power growth is crazy. And it really goes to show you why the Original Demon lost that power. Like, it is genuinely frightening to think about what would have happened to our characters if the Prime Original Demon was the one that showed up instead of the modern one. The Prime one puts the modern one to shame in so many different ways that it's actually buku ballistically bonkers. And honestly, it really makes me excited for any hypothetical return of the Original Demon in 4 Knights, through Chaos, through some sort of resurrection, because now Arthur should have the full capability to restore the Original Demon to his prime. There should be no way, especially if he can make Galland, a character who was kind of getting mollywopped by Escanor, strong enough that Galland personally believes that Escanor, the one he met, which was sometime around late morning, couldn't actually do anything to him now, couldn't even cut him with Rita. That's a pretty big leap. A massive leap, in fact. So, I can imagine that if revived, a Chaos Original Demon would be pretty bonkers. Because they would either A, be at their prime, or B, be beyond it. And that could be good. Because the thing is, a lot of characters from the original series don't necessarily, or at least a lot of ones that are, you know, not with us anymore, they aren't necessarily built for modern cast power creep, but the Original Demon has an out. It has a back door into still being relevant all these years later through its prime self. And I think that's good. I think it's good to have characters who do have multiple variations, it makes discussing them a whole lot more interesting. It makes it so that you can have different levels and different battles based on, like, once again, I'm not throwing the modern original demon up against any end of series characters. It's just not happening. It is not a kind thing to do to the original demon. However, the prime original demon can go kind of bonkers, can fit out in a lot of versus battles, can kind of go a little bit crazy, a little bit stupid. They'd be even crazier and even stupider if the hacks of the commandments existed in their power, but obviously that just didn't happen. The commandments were made post-original demon, so you can't like retroactively add those hacks to them, but just the raw stats on top of their already crazy hacks lineup makes the original demon in their prime one of the most dangerous characters in the entire verse, and just sheer kit wise arguably the most dangerous, which is crazy to think about. However, that's what I think. I'm extremely interested in the original demon in his prime, but are you guys? Tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure that little notification will miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do have a Patreon down below. Use both as low as $1 $1 links to videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off.